If God is for us, who can be against us? Those are the words of St. Paul from the second reading of today. If God is for us, who can be against us? This God who is constantly for us did not spare his own Son. He allowed Jesus Christ to go through all of the sufferings for the sake of you and I. And someone who imitates God in a way is Abraham in the first reading of today. Abraham, the friend of God, was asked to sacrifice his only beloved son, his only son. Ab initio, he was told that this son of his, through him, all generations will be blessed as well. And now he's being asked to sacrifice an only son. Dear friends, faith in God is like a journey into the unknown. It is joyous, it is adventurous, sometimes it is very, very tough. But Abraham was tested. He passed the test of fidelity, and God blessed him. There is a parallel between the first reading today and the gospel reading. In the first reading, we were told Isaac, a beloved son, an only son, to be sacrificed. And in the gospel reading of today, at the event of transfiguration, the voice from heaven said, "This is my beloved son. Listen to him." We are often tested as well. But how do we respond to the test in our life, in our various circumstances? Abraham was able to withstand, or perhaps he withstood the test, and he affirms what St. James says in James chapter 1, verse 3. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. For when you know that you're tested, if your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. Dear friends, in our responsorial psalm of today, we were told, I will walk before the Lord in the land of the living. When we walk in this life, we cannot walk alone. We need someone to walk with us. And the one that is to walk with us is Jesus. In the case of Abraham, he worked with God. He obeyed God. He listened to the commandment of God. Dear friends, God will not test us with those things that are not dear to us. We will always be tested with those precious things, those wonderful things of life. That is where our test will come from. But even when we are being tested, God will not test us beyond our capability. God won't test us beyond our capability. God will always send God's angel to watch over us. You remember last week when Jesus was tempted, the angels ministered to him. If God allowed the angels to minister to God, his Son, God will also allow the angels to minister to us in our own test, in our own vicissitudes of life. Another parallel between our first reading and the gospel reading of today, it all happened on the mountain. Abraham was asked to take Isaac onto that mountain. The transfiguration event happened at Mount Tabor. And 4 years ago, I was lucky enough to be at that same mountain, Mount Tabor, in Israel, in Jerusalem. And there are 3 churches built there. The center one is the one for Jesus. The one, I think, to the left is for Moses, and the other one is for Elijah. So we had Mass in the church for Moses, and I was lucky enough at the same time to take a reading. It was this reading of today, the Transfiguration part of it. You remember, Jesus took James, Peter, and John. He took them, said, buddies, let's go on this walk. And he took them to that mountain. The mountain is a place of encounter. It's a place of prayer. It's a place where we encounter God. And while they were on that mountain, the glory of God was shown to them. And the voice came down. The voice came and said, "This is my beloved Son. Listen to him." That was addressed to the disciples, and it's been addressed to us as well. There is a difference between that proclamation and the one at baptism. When Jesus was baptized, the same voice came, but the same voice addressed Jesus directly. "You are my Son, in whom I'm well pleased." But in the case of the transfiguration, it says, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am," listen to him rather. That address was to the disciples and to us as well. And so we see those who were transfigured with Jesus, Moses and Elijah. Moses representing, the law, and Elijah was a prototype of the prophets. So in a way, Jesus becomes a bridge between the prophet and the law. So that's why you see Moses and Elijah. But Peter said something. It is good to be here. The joy of that presence, he couldn't contain it. It is good to be here. Let us bid to tent for Jesus, Moses, and Elijah. Well, it is easier said than done. But Jesus is not interested in Peter building a tent at that mountain. Jesus rather wants a tent of meeting in the heart of Peter and the rest of the disciples, and likewise us as well. Jesus does not want Peter to build a tent at that mountain. Jesus wants a tent of meeting in the heart of Peter, of James and John, and in our hearts. And so they came down from that mountain. It was a preparation for the suffering of Jesus. Prior to this, Jesus asked the disciples, "What do you say the Son of Man is?" And Peter spoke up, "You are the Son of the living God." And right after that, Jesus made his first passion prediction. I'm going to suffer. I'm going to Calvary. The leaders of the people will kill me. This would happen. And Peter could not contain that. He remonstrated, "No, Jesus, you cannot die." He said, "Get behind me, Satan." And so now the transfiguration scene is a way to tell Peter, you've been grumbling. Take it easy. Listen to this man. Listen to Jesus. And so Jesus is bringing them back from the mountain, and now he wants to prepare them to go to another mountain with him. It's the mountain at Calvary, the mountain of the cross. It is the mountain of humiliation, the mountain of degradation. But on that same mountain will be an experience of glory. On that same mountain is the mountain of glorification. Dear friends, like Peter, James, and John, this second Sunday of Lent, Jesus wants us to walk together with him to that mountain. And if you're climbing mountains, you don't go with baggage. You have to throw out whatever it is that you have. So our baggage could be sin, could be worries, could be things that will prevent us from going to that mountain of Calvary with Jesus. Jesus wants us to walk with him to that mountain, so that on Easter we can actually say, like Peter, it is good to be here. It's a joyous experience where we can say, like Peter, it is good to be here. But it is only when we have been able to journey with Jesus to that mountain, to that Calvary. The lesson for today to remind us is that to every journey of glory, you must go via cruces. You must go through the cross. A life will not always be bed of roses. And even roses, of course, they have thorns. And that is how we move through life. We move through the tears and wears of life. But in all of our struggles, our difficulties in life, Jesus is always a dependable friend to walk us through life. So, dear friends, for we to say like Peter, it is good to be here, we have to drop all of the baggage that is preventing us to climb this mountain properly. Let us walk with Jesus closely. Just a closer walk with thee. Granted, Jesus is my plea. Verily walking close to thee. Let it be, dear Lord, let it be. Dear friends, Jesus wants us to walk with him to this mountain, the mountain of Calvary, so that after his resurrection, we can echo like Peter, it is good to be here. May the Lord help us in our Lenten observances. Amen.